You spent months planning and getting ready for an unmedicated birth. You took the class, you practiced the breathing, you pictured the whole thing. And then at one of your appointments, your provider says the word that you were like totally against, not planning for, induction. And your stomach drops because you know that an induction is best for you in this case because you're educated. And you also at the same time know that induction is the opposite of the birth that you wanted, that this might be the first domino. And once it tips, the epidural, everything else just follows automatically. And your unmedicated birth is like out the window. I have been a labor and delivery nurse for over 16 years, and I've had 6 unmedicated births. And I need to tell you that the idea that those two things cannot live together is one of the most common things I have to untangle for my students, also for patients. So today, can you be induced and still have an unmedicated, low intervention birth that you were hoping for? Yes. Yes, you can. And I've done it. Now, is that always the case? Not always, but the difference comes down to things I can actually teach you. So stay with me because by the end of this episode, you're going to feel like you've got your options back. Hey, I'm Trish, and this is The Birth Experience. I am a 16-year high-risk labor and delivery nurse and an online birth educator. I want to be your labor and delivery nurse birth bestie. So around here, I give you the real version, the one maybe your doctor would give you if they had a little more time instead of 7 minutes, like in your appointments, or not showing up till the baby is crowning. But my approach is what I like to call, one of my students said this years ago, you guys, and I love it, but it's crunchy with the side of medical, which means I will help you go for the unmedicated/natural, we don't say that around here, birth that you want. But I'll also be the first to tell you when a medical intervention is actually the best move for you. And here's the thing, you can have both. You don't have to pick team unmedicated, team interventions. You can actually be team, like whatever's best for me, and I will navigate it. So we're going to talk about inductions. Inductions are at a record high in this country. 1 out of 3 births, y'all. 1 out of 3 births are induced. And that number has been climbing fast. So the odds that you or someone close to you hears the word induction during pregnancy are higher than they've ever been, which is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. It means that the I wanted natural, but now they're saying induction feeling is very common, and it's happening in living rooms everywhere. So you are not alone. Not alone. But I want to gently take apart the belief that having an induction means C-section or means I can't have the birth that I want. And does it increase your odds of other interventions? Of course. But lack of education is one of the ways in which those dominoes can fall so much faster. But there's a version of induction that doesn't have to roll that way. And you know, it's not a law of physics or like a law that if you get induced, you're going to have all the other interventions. It's mostly about how the induction is done, why it's being done, and how prepared you and your body are walking into it. And those are like some little knobs that we can begin to turn. And instead of you being this like, you know, unknowing passenger in the domino effect, I want you to be in the driver's seat and make decisions. Some of my students, like I'm thinking of Ashley, she was a first-time mom. She had gestational diabetes and hypertension, I believe, and her provider wanted to induce her. And we actually talked through it on a pregnancy hangout, and it was the best decision for her. And she wanted to go unmedicated, and she was really afraid. Well, we talked through some options. Number 1 was waiting as long as possible before they start the induction so that her Bishop score, which we've got some information, some posts we'll put in the show notes that you can read what Bishop score is. But the higher it is, the better, more likely, more favorable your cervix will be for a vaginal delivery. So we talked through that. We also talked about some of the options, and she chose that she wanted to start with a Foley bulb induction, which you have to be open a little. Your cervix has to be a little to be able to do that. And that's what she chose. Her doctor had never done one, and her doctor did it for her because that's what she wanted. And she had a really good relationship with her provider. So let me start by explaining what an induction actually is in plain language, because most people have never had it described to them. And the mystery is half of what makes it so scary. An induction just means we are helping your body start labor instead of waiting for it to start on its own, which you probably know that, right? But there are many, many different tools that we can use and things that you can do. And what is used actually matters enormously for whether we can stay mobile and we can stay unmedicated. So sometimes it starts with helping your cervix get ready and what we called ripening. Because if your cervix isn't favorable yet, the whole thing tends to be longer and harder. So like I said, we want to make sure your cervix is favorable before we ever start. The next thing is sometimes we start with breaking your water, and I am not a fan of this one. I recommend to my students, to my followers, to anyone who comes in contact with me that's getting induced, to tell them that you do not want your water broken unless you're in active labor, which the standards say is 6 centimeters or more, or you're contracting regularly and making cervical change. Because some of y'all can be 6 centimeters walking around at all times and not making change. That is not active labor. So you need to be having regular contractions and at least 6 centimeters or more, in my opinion. Now, girl, you do you. Okay. The other thing that I want to say is that the big gun in labor and delivery for inductions is Pitocin. Pitocin doesn't ripen your cervix. So your cervix has to be ripened first. And we've got whole episodes on induction, so I'm not going to go super deep. I just want to talk about some of the points in which you can make decisions so that you can stay on top of this and have the unmedicated birth you want. So this is a big factor in whether you stay unmedicated or not. Number one, I'm just going to go right back to this, is that you have to make a decision. I tell my students all the time, if you decide you want to go unmedicated, you have to marry the decision, just like you're getting married. If you were getting married and you're like, oh, I'm going to check this out for a little bit and see how it goes, and then I'll make a decision, girl, you would be divorced, because when he chews too loud and he leaves his undies on the bathroom floor and he uses your deodorant every morning because he can't find his own, girl, you're going to divorce him. So if you approach unmedicated birth like that, like I'm going to try and see, probably not going to make it. So you have to marry the decision. You know, I'm getting all over the place today, but let's go back to the big gun, which is Pitocin. Pitocin can actually be run at lower doses and turned up slowly. And in some cases, which is what we did with Lainey when she was having IV, was we stopped it once her body was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. And it actually takes over labor. So whether that is possible for you depends on your situation and also your provider. You need to have these conversations. So the whole point is that induction is not one single experience. There's different versions of it and you have to understand it. We actually have a workshop all about medical and natural induction methods. I think it's like 45 minutes to an hour and you can watch it. We give you kind of a plan of action of what to do prior to going into the hospital to be induced, what to do at home, and how to even avoid inductions if you're going past your due date. So that's a whole nother thing. And I'll have Darby link to it in the show notes. But there's like this version of induction that's super fast and aggressive for the provider's timeline. And then there's this version that you can dictate and you can navigate so that it's gentler on your body. So I want you to really learn how to ask some questions. So the biggest factor of staying unmedicated, again, is your mindset. And it's also your why. Why are you wanting to go unmedicated? So if it's a decision you're making because everyone in your family did it, or you're afraid of the epidural needle, it's going to be harder. If you're deciding you want to go unmedicated because you've done the research and you've made the decision from a knowledge base, you're going to stay with it, right? So again, can you go unmedicated during an induction? Hell yes, you absolutely can. I've done it with 3 out of my 6 births. And was it hard? It can be. Here's the other question everyone always asks me is like, are induced labors harder? Are the contractions more painful? No, they're actually not. However, you hit the harder stage faster. Whereas if you're, not being induced, you gradually build up to these stronger contractions. Whereas in Pitocin throws you into the brick wall a little quicker. As long as you know that ahead of time and you have tools to use, you can navigate it. Because if this girl right here can navigate that, you can navigate it, because I am the biggest wuss in the world. I hate needles, I hate pain, and I've had 6 unmedicated births. So if I can do it, you can do it. The whole point is you have to understand what's going on. You have to know your options. You have to understand the interventions. You have to understand your rights to move. You have to understand how to move your body. And if an induction is medically necessary for you, then you map it out. You have conversations and you make decisions so that you have breathing room and your preferences get honored. Most useful thing I can teach you for this whole situation, it's a conversation, not a technique. When your provider starts bringing up induction, I want you to slow the roll and ask questions before you ever say yes or you say no. Ask them, why are we doing this specifically? Is this for my health? Is this for my baby's health? Or is this just your suggestion? Ask them, is my cervix ready? And if not, what can we do to change that? And can we wait until it is? You want to ask, can we start low and slow if Pitocin is involved? And ask them, how long do I have to think this over? You're not being difficult by asking questions. You're doing exactly what I would do for my own body and exactly what we did with Lainey. A good provider should respect every one of those questions. Now, let's say it is happening, it's medically reasonable, and you've decided to go forward, and you still want to protect as much of your unmedicated, mobile birth as you can. Here's how you stack the deck. Move, move, move. Do not assume that you have to lay flat on your back wired to machines. A lot of the time, even as you are being monitored, because if you are on Pitocin, you have to be on the monitors. You can do wireless. And even if you're attached to the monitor, you can move around your bed. You can sit on a ball, you can sway, you can dance. Movement is one of your best tools for managing the intensity without medication. And it also works with your body to help your labor progress so that you're working 2 jobs at once. Build your pain, labor, and comfort toolkit ahead of time. That includes breathing and counter pressure and position changes, a partner, a doula, and someone who can help you. These are the things that will carry you through. And induced contractions, again, they come on stronger and sooner and closer together than spontaneous ones. So going in with a real toolkit is non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. Remember to bring your birth plan. They've shown that births are 3 times more likely to have a vaginal delivery. If you have a birth plan, we call it a birth map around here. And, the goal was never like my way or the highway. The goal is you be the driver. So you have to understand the routes, right? You have to understand the twists and turns so that you can have the birth that you want. Here's what I really want you to leave with. The word induction is not the end of your birth map. It's not the end of your birth plan. It's not a verdict on what kind of mom you are or how well you did this pregnancy or whatever. It's information. It's a fork in the road. And women who actually understand what's happening, understand their rights, understand the different options, the right questions, they know how to request the version of induction they want, are able to have a birth that they love. And if you know someone who's staring down the induction barrel and grieving the birth she thought she'd have, send her this episode. She needs to hear it because I want you guys to know you can still have a very powerful, beautiful, unmedicated, induced birth. Okay, friend, as always, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you hit subscribe and do me a favor and leave a review. It means so much to me. I am a labor nurse and a mom who is passionate about you being educated and supported, which is why I built the podcast, the birth classes, and I hang out with you guys inside of our community on Zoom because I want you to be able to have the birth you love. So hit subscribe, leave a review, and I'll see you again next week. Bye for now.